To my channel. My name is Karina and I make videos for SLPAs. I'm an SLPA myself and I work currently in the school setting. So I'm here to share with you all today how I typically handle bad behaviors in my speech sessions. Just for starters, I want y'all to know that I really struggled with this during my first year as an SLPA. When I was moving into, or when I started in the school setting, I came from early intervention. So I was used to, like, if the kids had any sort of bad behavior or acting up in a sense, then the parents would step in immediately or the parents would apologize. So I didn't really have to deal with a lot of bad behaviors. But in the school, you know, I have typically a room to myself and I have 3 to 4 kids. Depending on how I group them, I mean, it's all kind of trial and error. Behaviors got really bad, and it is like that if you don't have like behavior management experience. I didn't get any of this through my undergraduate career, which is fine. I didn't expect to really learn that, but I also didn't understand how much I would need it until I was in a school setting. I kind of want to share with you all what I really went through my first year and be really real. And then I'll move into kind of what you should do and what I've kind of learned now as an SLPA in a school setting. I'm just sharing my tips with y'all. So my first year, like I said, while I had a lot of behavior trouble, I even would talk about it with my supervisor a lot of the times, like when they would check in and talk about what areas you need to improve on, what you need help in. I was always like, behavior. I have no behavior management like strategies. I knew nothing. And I kind of picked up on the teachers around me. So that's a big tip. I urge you, if you're already in a school setting, then look at the people around you. Typically, teachers already know how to handle bad behaviors. They normally either have like some sort of reward system if they're in the younger grades, you know, kinder or first grade. And then the older grade levels, I've just seen you have to be assertive. You have to not be ugly to the kids, but you have to know when to kind of put your foot down and let them know, hey, I'm the adult. I'm the teacher, you need to listen to me. So I didn't know any of this, but that first year, it was a lot of power struggles. I found myself, you know, if a kid didn't want to participate in speech, I would kind of straight up be like, well, hey, you need to be here for this, and this reason. And then if they would try to leave the session, they would just go out the door. And I didn't know how to get them back into the activity we were doing. I didn't know how to redirect them back into the room. I had zero knowledge. Looking back now, I think my first year, I really didn't set any boundaries. There were no expectations. There was no authority, no rules that were set in the very beginning, which I now know needs to be done. So for sure, if you're starting out in a school setting or somewhere where you're going to deal with a lot of kids, especially younger kids, I would highly recommend you go in with like a plan already to set expectations. This looks different depending on the person, right? Some people want to make a poster of their roles. Some people want to buy these things on Amazon. That's all great for you. I move spaces typically in the school setting. I'm not always in one room every single day, so I can't really do that. I like to write my roles. If it's a new group that I'm working with, a new student, I like to write my roles on a dry erase board, or I just verbally say them and then I give them reminders. For example, I need you to use the restroom before you come to speech therapy. I need you to raise your hand when someone else is speaking. I need you to be respectful of other people. Those are all just some examples of basic rules that you want to set the expectations for. And you would think it's kind of common knowledge, but again, my first year, I didn't do any of this. So the students didn't really know like how I worked, what rules there were. It's something you definitely have to set the tone for. With this set of rules that you're giving your students, you have to expect them to kind of mimic you. If you are asking your kids, for example, to be respectful of each other and to be raising their hand, and if you're consistently interjecting when they're trying to say something, or you're interrupting them or trying to get directly to the point, then it's something they're going to pick up on. I like to really model turn taking and respectful behavior. For example, if I have a group of 4 kids working on an activity or some sort of speech and language game, and one person begins to talk, and then the other one kind of interrupts, I'll pause them and I'll say, hey, wait a second, he's speaking right now. And I do that for them to clearly see, hey, they are speaking, you need to be respectful, and I do the same back. So when I am speaking and they are talking over me, even though it's a 30-minute session, I still need to address these behaviors. And I have found that if I immediately wait or silence myself in a sense, then they pick up on that and they stop talking. Also, please, please, please make sure you're setting very clear rules for your games if you're doing like some sort of group game, because I have found there's kids who are not taking the competition very lightly or there's kids who are, you know, very competitive, and if they lose something, then they throw a fit, they don't want to come to speech, or the next time they come they're still upset, they hold this sort of grudge toward the other student. So I don't want any of that negative behavior. I don't. For example, I play a game called Pirate Talk a lot, and that game has like a small treasure chest in the middle, and the students are consistently getting coins. So it's very clear that the winner will be the person who gets the most coins at the end. However, I make it known that everyone is going to be a winner. And I say that for them to know, hey, it's still just a game. And if you lose, it's okay. You're not winning some grand prize. I even show them sometimes my prize, which will be stickers. And I leave it at stickers because it's not some extravagant incentive for them doing the speech and language activity that I'm asking them to do. And it's also just, you know, for them to be proud of their work and for them to be happy that they participated. And it's still an incentive, right? It's something for them to look forward to at the end of the game. So some examples of things I might say is like, hey, it's just a game. We're all going to be winners. Everyone gets a sticker at the end, regardless if you have the most tokens or the least. I also make it a point to give a lot of high praise. I have found that there's just some kids that need it. Some kids obviously don't, but if you're consistently, you know, modeling that good behavior and telling them, hey, I really like the way you used your R sound that time. Hey, I didn't hear you stutter this time. Something like that is always gonna help out kids, and it's gonna present like better behaviors as they continue the speech and language activity. Lastly, I try to be very honest and open with these students about their goals and their progress, especially my older students. Say a student is in kindergarten and they know that they have trouble spelling, I don't know, and I'm consistently helping them. I try to be honest, like, hey, you know, you've made this much progress. If they're not doing well, I also let them know, but not in a, hey, you're not doing good sort of tone. I do it more in like, hey, you know, we still need to work on this, so we're gonna do that next time. Or hey, let's start out our session by doing 2 words for you to read or spell, and then we'll continue our activity. I want that open communication for students to feel comfortable and to want to do good in speech therapy. I don't want them to see it as just another thing they have to do on top of their schoolwork or just something they have to get pulled out for. That's not fun. I want it to be fun for kids. So what do I do now? I still have kids who come into speech therapy and they don't want to be there. I'm pulling them out from their specials, or it's not a good day for them. Whatever the case is, what I typically do first is I ignore it. I don't ignore to be rude. I ignore it because I mostly have group speech sessions. So if I'm taking the time to acknowledge one person's negative behavior, negative vibe that they are bringing into the session, and I feel like that's just taking away everyone else's mood. You know what I mean? Now, what kids tend to do is get drawn to that behavior. We'll say something like, hey, he seems sad. Hey, what's wrong? And that's when I begin to acknowledge it. At that point, I ask the student who is presenting these behaviors or this attitude to share. And if they don't want to share, then I give them their space. But that step 2 is kind of me making sure that they're okay. At that point, the student will either tell me, hey, I don't want to talk about it, or they will then begin to share with the speech group, and we just address it right then and there, and then it gets resolved. But if the student is still like, hey, you know, I just don't want to talk about it, I'm not having a good day, then I make it clear that they have a space in our game, and when they are ready to play, then it's there for them. I also let them know, hey, if you don't want to be here, you can sit out, but that's your choice in choosing to not participate. I try to make that very clear again because I want them to know, like, hey, I'm here for a reason, and because they know their goals and they know their progress at this point, they're aware like, hey, if I'm not doing well, I'm not doing good for myself. I try to not push it and push it and push it, because that just becomes a power struggle, and I'm taking time away from other kids in the speech session. So at that point, typically they'll be down for a few minutes and then they get over it. But I find that if I'm just consistently asking and asking and asking, then they're gonna continue with this behavior. A lot of the times it's attention that they want, and I try to not immediately give that. Sometimes at the end of the session, if they are still down, I will pull them aside and be like, hey, you know, what's really going on? Do you want to talk about it at this point? It's just me and you. But I try to really have that open communication again, because I want my students to be content coming to speech therapy. If none of the above helps the student, I have had situations where students just kind of argue with me, especially when they're older. They kind of talk back and they test those boundaries, you know, with teacher and student. And because I'm not seeing them all the time, I'm not seeing them every single day, I typically see them 2 times a week, they feel that that relationship isn't as strong or that they can test it. I just send them back to class, and I'll make note of it, you know, in their attendance or something, that they had to be sent back or they weren't participating. But I do, again, make it clear like, hey, you know what, if you don't want to be here, that option is there for you. You can go back to class and we will continue without you today. That's only in extreme cases where, again, the student just isn't participating. And believe me, all of these things work. I remember when I first started, I was like, it's such basic information, I don't need to do all that. Students know, you know, they've been in school all their life, they know the day-to-day rules, but no, these things really do work. I feel like if you set the expectation again from the beginning, it's very clear to the students what needs to be done, how you're going to handle things, what kind of teacher you are. And if kids need, you know, visual cues, then make sure you provide that. I think that's why it's important to have a dry erase board and a marker, or some sort of reward, you know, for other cases. But do whatever works for you. This is just my advice. I have improved a lot in my behavior area, my behavior management, and I'm very proud of that. As an SLPA who didn't learn that in undergrad, and someone who just kind of has learned throughout her career, I'm very proud to say that my students are very well behaved now, and I feel like I can really control their behavior in my speech session. So I hope you did find this video helpful. If you did and you like this video, make sure to subscribe to my channel. It'll mean so much to me. I will catch you all in my next video. Bye.